Unfortunately, comes down to, Keith, the 76ers just too small. Andre Drummond. And then what? What follows that? We'll break it all down in this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there, Locked On Podcast Network. This particular episode is brought to you by the wonderful people at FanDuel. That's right. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Head to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Keith Pompey been covering your 76ers for near a decade and a half. Marc Farzetta, I'm talking sports with you guys for about 20 years now in the city of brotherly love. Keith, it's a common taunt in the NFL, in the NBA these days, where someone will dunk on somebody and then they do the too small thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
76ers just way too small to try to compete with the Miami Heat yesterday. I give them credit, a good basketball team, but the Sixers with Andre Drummond, and then unfortunately pretty much nobody after that, too small to compete with some, a true 7-footer to say the least in what the Miami Heat have.
Yeah, I mean, but when you look at it, there's no Joel Embiid, and then you have Drummond. So you think typically where you have a 7-2, a 6'11" backup, and then, you got a guy in a Dembona who's 6'8" to go small ball. But, yeah, they just had too much. We now the next biggest guy is 6'9", and Don Barlow, and that might – his being listed 6'9" might be generous. And then you have Paul George and you have Trendon Watford, who are both listed as 6'8", and it just seems like they was just grabbing every rebound they wanted. Like the guy Khalil Ware, he had 8 points and 8 rebounds in the first quarter. 6 of those rebounds was offensive. Then you look at Bam Adebayo, they moved him to power forward. He was in beast mode as well. It just seems like the 76ers had a tough time dealing with that. They were out rebounded 58-46. We're talking about where he had 20 points, 16 rebounds. Bam had, I believe, 18 points and 13 rebounds. So it was just that the 76ers were like, you're right, too small.
Okay. 24 rebounds by Andre Drummond. You mentioned the 46 rebounds they had in total tonight. And by the way, when I looked at the box score after the game, I was absolutely expecting the Sixers to be out-rebounded by 20. So the fact that it was, 12 was somewhat of a pleasant surprise, to say the least. But 24 rebounds by Andre Drummond. Your next leader was off the bench. That was Trendon Watford, who had 8. After that, Justin Edwards in 33 minutes played had 4 rebounds. What's the plan here going forward? I mean, we don't know what the Sixers are going to have in Joel Embiid. Unfortunately, for the rest of the season and really the rest of his career is how I think most people realistically look at it. Dembona obviously not playing. So is it Barlow the plan? Is it Trendon Watford the plan? Like, what is the plan going forward? Can the Sixers do it? Janai Broome plays more than a minute. What's the plan going forward if they only have Andre Drummond as a legitimate, if you want to call it that, and you can with him this year, legitimate backup big for the Sixers?
Well, you really can't control injuries, and that has a lot to do with it. I mean, because we're talking about guys right now, they got a lot of guys playing out of position. You got, Broome, Barlow being the backup big right now. And I think the plan is you got to hope and pray that you get, that you hurry up and get a Dembona back quickly. But with that being said, the Sixers are they're just a smaller team. And typically when we look at the NBA, there are a lot of smaller teams now. But it just seems that the issue with the Sixers is that they went up against 2 teams that had towering front courts. One was the Cleveland Cavaliers. They out-rebounded Cleveland. But let's be honest, that game was over that game was over after the third quarter. So the 76ers kept playing hard while Cleveland wasn't. But when we look at it, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley was just in straight beast mode against the Sixers. Yesterday it was Ware and it was Adebayo. But the thing is, what can they do moving? It's really not much. I mean, you got to try to speed it up. You got to try to attack, just a quicker game, get these guys out. But when you get into a half court setting, that's the problem. You just don't have it. And then here's the thing, I get it. The problem, I guess you could say broom, but can you play broom? But we're not in there for those practices. Mm-hmm. So evidently these other two guys must be impressing the coaching staff more than Janai Broome for him to play. And when you look at Janai Broome, he is, he can knock down shots, he can do stuff. Being a rebounder, I don't know if that's one of his strengths on the NBA level. But these other two guys are better rebounders, talking about Jabari Walker and Dominic Barlow. But that's just a problem they're going to have to deal with, man, right now. Because the way the roster is constructed, you got 7-2, you got 6-11. You would think that would be sufficient enough. The problem is when you got 7-2 and he only played in 6 games. And then you got another undersized guy. That's the problem. That's the problem. They may have to go out there and try to look for another big, but I think that might be their best bet if Embiid can't come back.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like you need like almost a stable of running backs like you do in the NFL. You need a stable of running backs to go out there because they get banged up so often. I feel like they need a stable of centers right now, and I feel like going into the season, the Sixers, they have Joel Embiid, they have Andre Drummond, they have a Dembona who showed some promise obviously last year, and then showed some promise a little bit this year. It fell by the wayside, and really Drummond's play has just been so good this year as the backup center. He has taken over that role. So I don't see them going out there and adding anybody. So to your point, Keith, it's a situation right now, and of all the fan bases, I do not like asking Sixers fans in Philadelphia to be patient, but this is where they're at. They're banged up with their number one guy in Joel Embiid, which is not a surprise, unfortunately. Then you have a guy that went into the season as a backup in a Dembona is also banged up, and Andre Drummond right now is a knight in shining armor for the 76ers team. So they're not going to go out there, and I don't think they're going to add anybody. I don't think they're going to kick the tires on anybody. This is just a point where we're going to have to grin and bear bad moments and bad matchups for the Sixers. But as far as Joel Embiid goes right now, I hate to even ask this question because I feel like we know the answer already. Is there a latest there with Joel Embiid?
I mean, we already talked about it. Yeah, it's like, you know what? It's weird. The latest with Joel Embiid is that he's not playing. I mean, they're saying that the latest with him is that this is what they're saying. He has knee soreness. Before they said it was knee injury recovery. Now it's knee soreness. They're saying he's not quite ready yet, but he's progressing. So, but I will say this. A couple games ago, Joel was out there warming up, and then he reached down and he rubbed his knee. And, maybe some people could look at it like, he just rubbed his knee. Maybe it twitches up. But when you start doing stuff like that, it looks kind of like, what's really going on? The problem is that, we felt like the 76ers, they had a little goodwill going on in the city. When Joel came back early and everybody said this and that, and okay, people were like, okay, we get it. He's not going to play on back-to-backs. He's not going to play when they play games in 48 hours. He's going to need at least 2 days in between the rest. But then all of a sudden, they play that game against the Toronto Raptors where it was his best game of the season. And then he goes down hard. And then we haven't seen him since, right? So it's tough because you look at it and you're saying to yourself, well, although he gave it the varsity try so far, it's kind of like, what's different? You know what I mean? Like he just seems like his knees are just still banged up. And, and like when I went into the locker room and it was in Detroit, he didn't come out and he didn't sit on the bench that game in Detroit. But he has been with the team. Like he was with the team in Milwaukee. But the thing is, when you go there and you see him, typically you're gonna lock him. He has these 2 big ice packs on his knee. Now maybe that's something that they want to do, like after every time he works out to make sure the swelling goes down. But when you see a guy who hasn't played since November the 8th, it's November the 24th. It's 16 days, right? And you're looking and you're saying to yourself, like, this thing is a little bit worse than what we think. But again, we don't know. All they keep saying is he'll be back shortly. He'll be back soon. He'll be back soon. Now they did have him listed as doubtful to 1 day, which doubtful from being out is a positive, but then it went right back to being out. So it's really nothing, man. It's really nothing to say.
Yeah, when I saw doubtful, I just said, yeah, no kidding. Unfortunately, because that's how we're conditioned to think right now with Joel Embiid. All right, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Paul George. Less of Paul George in this game, which I did find interesting. I also want to touch on VJ Edgecomb, see if there's anything there as far as him not playing last night. We'll examine that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Back after this. Now it's time to tell you guys about Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings. Nobody enjoys that. Or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in. Take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is an all-in-one, remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do all of it in one place without the hassle and hassles and hidden fees. How about that? Unlimited payrolls. Right now, when you're talking about Gusto, 1 monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like other letters, for instance, offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save me hours every single week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you the real peace of mind that you need. Try Gusto today at gusto.com. That's gusto.com/LockedOnNBA and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months free of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. One more time, gusto.com/LockedOnNBA, gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. You guys have heard me talking about Wayfair before, especially if you want to get your home ready for the holidays. Wayfair has it all. The holiday season upon us. Thursday, Thanksgiving, for instance, and then, oh boy, does it start. And what does that mean? You want to make sure that your home is cozy and comfortable and looking nice for all your guests. Wayfair's Black Friday sale, by the way, it is already upon us. So make sure you check it out at wayfair.com. The best part, you don't got to wait for Friday. Black Friday sales already underway. Up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. My wife just ordered a new light fixture for the top of our steps. Oh, Wayfair. Chef's kiss. How about that? Wayfair.com recently upgraded the curtains in the house, too, thanks to Wayfair. So take advantage. Don't miss out on the early Black Friday deals at Wayfair.com. Shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale right now. Up to 70% off. WAYFAIR.com. That's Wayfair.com. Sale ends December 7th. Let's start out before we get to PJ. Any major concern with VJ Edgecomb, Keith, in terms of his injury and what he's dealing with right now?
I don't know if it's a major concern, but there has to be concern. I mean, when we look at these calf, what they're saying is a calf tightness, but you wonder if it's a calf strain, right? So if you have a calf strain, which is probably could be, because why is it tight? Something's wrong with it, right? So a mild calf sprain it typically takes 1 to 3 weeks to basically heal. That's the recovery time for that. So a moderate calf strain, which is a grade 2 calf strain, is 3 to 6 weeks. And then, the other one is a grade 3, and that typically happens where there's like a tear and potentially you may have to have surgery. Now, what they're saying is that this is just precautionary and everything is okay and this and that. So I'm assuming it could be a mild one or it could be something close, but you have to monitor these things because, we look at it last year. You look at Tyrese Halliburton. Mm-hmm. He had a calf issue. The same thing, I believe, with Kevin Durant years ago. Like all these guys are having these calf issues, and there's a lot of them going around the league. And the fear is, and what has happened, is they turn into Achilles tears after a while. Like they keep playing. So it's smart for the 76ers to shut them down. And when we talk about a concern, like, yeah, I would be concerned because you don't want to bring them back too soon because it could end up being something else, leading to something else, a la an Achilles tear. So with that being said, yeah, I'm a little concerned. Now, who knows? A mild one is 1 to 3 weeks. Could he miss tomorrow's game? He could. Could he be out for like up and through Thanksgiving and then come back? Yeah. I mean, because that would be a week. He injured it on Thursday. He reported the injury on Thursday. They played the Brooklyn Nets on Friday. So, yeah, I could see him, missing tomorrow's game against the Orlando Magic. And then if everything goes well, possibly coming back against Brooklyn. But if not, then, we know it's probably not as slight as they said it is.
All right. So Joel Embiid, undetermined. Adembona, still hoping and praying. Kelly Oubre, we're now in what? We got a week left here, hopefully, before we see him back playing for the Sixers again.
Yeah.
At the best case scenario, VJ Edgecomb. And Paul George, we just saw 5 minutes less of Paul George against the Heat than we did in the previous game there. So he goes from 25 minutes to 20 minutes. Why the knock in minutes for PG in the game against the Heat here yesterday?
Here's the thing. He was supposed to go 20 minutes, but then the game went to overtime, right? And then also we saw how remember when they played the Washington Wizards, Embiid was begging to get back in the game and they didn't put him in there. But I also think the part of the thing with PG is you got to realize they had PG starting at power forward. It was a bad matchup for him. Like Bam was just destroying him, getting anywhere he wanted to. And when you look at it, you got to say to yourself, well, Bam's supposed to destroy him. I mean, they may be the same in height, but Bam is like a center playing power forward. Yeah. PG is a wing playing power forward. You can't stop that down low. So what they tried to do is they had PG coming out there matching some of the Jaime Jaquez minutes at the 3 or the 4 to back up. So that kind of took him out of the loop a little bit. He was just too small. But yeah, I do think that it had a lot to do with matchup. And then it had a lot also to do with the fact that, we were trying to win that Milwaukee game. We're trying to get this one. You're playing well. We're trying to steal this victory. How do you feel at the time? So I think their minutes is like from 20 to 25. But, and let's face it, you had a feeling you weren't going to win this game at one point. So there's no need.
Well, yeah, I will say this. I mean, there are a couple of different instances where, the Heat would reestablish 10-point leads and, go up 12, 13, whatever. And then the Sixers would all of a sudden cut it to 3 or cut it to 2. And then the Heat would come out rolling again and then put the Sixers, for lack of a better term, in their place. But I don't understand when you have a guy like Paul George, like one of the last people in the NBA I want to put a guy on defensively who's just coming back from injury and trying to ramp himself back up is Bam Adebayo. like of all the matchups, I understand it's not exactly a boatload of guys you have the option of putting up against Bam Adebayo, but like the last guy I want up against him is Paul George because of his current status in trying to come back from this injury. So when I did see the 20 minutes and all that stuff, and you really take note of the minutes, I go, damn, that feels like even that's a long time for him to try to be D'ing up Bam Adebayo in this game.
Yeah, the problem is, who else do you have? I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah,
I get it. Right then and there, like, he was the best defender they got. I mean, you might say, okay, you may say, okay, let's see. They got a problem. You may say, okay, let's go with Dom Barlow. Okay, Dom, we're going to have you do it. But then we also need Dom as the backup for. So if he gets in foul trouble, we're screwed, right, Jabari? But then you look at PG and you say to yourself, okay, PG, right now we may have to have you play small forward, whereas we have the other guy. But then can you defend? What if you get switched on Norman Powell? Are you going to be able to stop him now? Like, can you stop this guy at this particular point? Like, I just felt like it was a crazy matchup. But then when you look at him, he's supposed to be their best defender, right? But at the same time, that was just a bad matchup. But,
right.
Here's the thing. Like, this is the one thing when we look at the reality of the 76ers, and I think you can fool yourself a little bit based off of the success that Dom Barlow and Jabari Walker have. But at the end of the day, these are two guys on two-way contracts trying to get a standard deal. So when we talk about as good as they played against young players, when you talk about Bam, who's a three-time All-Star, an Olympic champion, right, one of the best players in the league, it probably would have been uglier than what it was with Paul George on him. You know what I mean? Just with
I get it.
It's just there's levels to this.
No, I get it. I think it's more so for me. That Bam Adebayo is going to play a uber physical game, and PG. Look, I think maybe in a month or two he'll be ready for that smoke. But in this particular game, I didn't think he was ready for it, unfortunately. Yeah. And I know, I know it's slim pickings after him. I'm not banging the drum for Dom Barlow. I'm not banging the drum for, Jabari Walker. I'm just saying right now at this point, that was a lot to ask of Paul George to go up against Bam Adebayo. And I think that's why you also saw the downward. Well, I don't know what to call it, a trend, but less minutes. You saw less minutes from him in this game. Hey, it's not all bad. Keith, we can look at something here that's, I don't even want to call it a silver lining, but hey, it was good to see these two players play the way they did in this game. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers. Make sure you like and subscribe. Back after this. And how about FanDuel? You guys have FanDuel on the old phone there yet? Download the FanDuel app. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Well, you know what they're doing? They're giving away $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. NBA season very much upon us. No better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has the live bets on everything, like who will score next, the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets on FanDuel at FanDuel.com into a same-game parlay for a bigger shot at a bigger payout. Keep every game more exciting. Everything when your team's making that late push, especially then. Right now, FanDuel is giving away new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up right now and get started. Play your game at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Justin Edwards, nice steal down the defensive end, gets to Tyrese Maxey, knocks down a three. A number of plays similar to that where you saw, I'll say this, max defensive effort from Justin Edwards, who is certainly finding his footing again. And then you also see in his confidence building. Then you also see Jared McCain, speaking of a guy finding his footing. 15 points in this game, by far his best game to this point this season, in a game where you needed him to step up, where you didn't have VJ Edgecomb. You still have Tyrese Maxey logging crazy minutes, although just 36 in this particular game, I think it was, against the Heat. Let's start with Justin Edwards. What did you like from him in this game against the Heat?
I like Justin because, Justin has been really steady. He struggled early on. We know that. We also know that he's not Kelly Oubre. Like, Kelly Oubre is the guy who is extremely athletic. He's going to get a put-back dunk. He's going to knock down a couple threes. He's going to, excite the crowd, do whatever, run all over, do a lot of different things. Justin is more of a guy who, he knows his role. And, at times you want him to step up more and do certain things. And he did do it the one game. So I give him credit for that. But at the same time, when he's out there with Maxey, he's out there with Jared McCain, out there with PG, you just need him to keep making heady plays, which is, the right play. You need him to, try to, when he drives to the lane, if somebody brings over help defense, make sure you kick the ball, swing the ball, do all that. And that's what he's been doing. You know what I mean? And he hasn't been hurting the team at all with that. So that's what really has stood out to me about him since he's been in the starting lineup for these 3 games, that he continues to play, quality defense, and he continues to make the right plays on offense.
Mm-hmm. Jared McCain, again, a guy looks like he's getting his legs back under him. I thought this was a great test for him. Really a great opportunity without VJ Edgecomb being available. So Jared McCain finding his way back into the Sixers rhythm, finding his way back into the Sixers offense. What'd you make of his performance against the Heat?
Yeah, this was his best performance. It was funny. After he made his first basket, it was on his first attempt, he did the too small thing. So you're looking at him, you're saying to yourself, okay, bro, okay.
Yeah, right.
I hope it's going to be a good game for you.
All right,
talking stuff. But, yeah, he shot 3 for 4 on threes. He looked good. He kind of started – he looked – to me, that was the first time that he really looked like himself before the injury. He looked like a guy who was, ready to win Rookie of the Year. He's playing more minutes. I think that helps too, because when you're playing a little bit of minutes, you start pressing a little bit. You want to try to make your first shot, impress the coach, because if not, you're going to sit down, and that has happened. But the fact that VJ Edgecomb didn't play, I think he knew he was going to get a lot more minutes. And with that being said, it's kind of like you can settle in. You can be more yourself. You can stop pressing, just play and have fun. And I felt like that's what he did.
Yeah, it didn't feel like he went out there and be like, I'm going to play 5 minutes. I'm going to play 8 minutes. I'm going to play 11 minutes. I'm going to be on a real short leash while I'm out there. No, it felt like he was he looked a lot more free while he was playing in this game, and certainly the circumstances would dictate that. Last thing I want to ask you about, it is regarding injury, and I just remember this. It was enough to ask Nick Nurse after the game about it. Tyrese Maxey, a little shoulder tightness or something. What went on there where he was stretching out his arm? I know Nick Nurse commented on it after the game.
He just banged it, but something. Here's the deal, dude. They're all like, to me, maybe it's tight because he's hoisting up all them threes. but Tyrese got some treatment after the game. The 76ers said it wasn't as bad as what. Now we'll figure it out, right? We will find out what happens today at practice.
It's not as bad. See him in a month.
Yeah, see you in a month. But I think that, let's face it, teams are getting extremely physical with Tyrese. The only game that a team they didn't do it was Milwaukee, and we saw what happened with Milwaukee. He dropped 54 on them, right? Mm-hmm. But aside from that, you have to look at it and you have to say that, he's just going to get these bumps and bruises because of the way he's been hounded. And he's been getting knocked to the floor, too. In the past, I always felt like Tyrese used to complain about fouls, but they were like wishy-washy a little bit. Man, yesterday in a couple games, I've seen Tyrese get knocked down to the ground, and no foul was called whatsoever.
2 foul shots. 2 foul shots. Yesterday.
Yeah, so... But he's wasting up that shoulder because the follow through is he's feeling.
Yeah. He's got tennis elbow of the shoulder, just a repeated motion It's good for nobody. Keith, they're back at it tomorrow night. Sixers have the Orlando Magic for an 8:00 tip-off tomorrow. That one is in South Philadelphia. And I will just add this little caveat. I do love seeing them in the black jerseys. And Eric Snow got interviewed.
What's their record in those black jerseys?
Are they 0?
They won in Milwaukee with.
They won in Milwaukee. Yes, I was going to say they're 1-3.
Yeah. You still love them black jerseys?
I enjoy it until the end of the game when they lose. But other than that, and I like the in-game interviews. Eric Snow got interviewed. Theo Ratliff got interviewed. Always a sin that he got traded away that season. And maybe they don't make it to the finals without him, whatever. But I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying the nostalgia. I'm not enjoying the present, but I'm enjoying the nostalgia. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta, this is Locked On 76ers. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Locked On 76ers, of course. And also, we thank you for making Locked On 76ers part of your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 podcast sports network out there. Make sure you guys also like and subscribe and follow Locked On Fantasy Basketball with host Josh Lloyd, who breaks it all down to not only help you win your league, but make you the smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Back with you guys tomorrow. See you then.